I am from How To Taxes, and I'm here to help you prepare your Form 2022-1040 with line-by-line instructions. The scenario for this video is a married couple filing jointly with a 13-year-old son, but it will be helpful for any filing status. At the top of the form, under the Filing Status section, check the box that is appropriate to you. Put your name, your spouse's name if you're married, your Social Security numbers, your address at the top of the form. Make sure to answer the question regarding digital assets. Check the appropriate boxes under the Standard Deduction and Age Blindness section if any of them apply to you. Under the Dependent section, since in our example you have a 13-year-old son, put his first name, his last name, his Social Security number, his relationship to you, and check the box that he qualifies for the child tax credit. On line 1A, put any wages that you have. You can find this information in box 1 of the Form W-2. In our example, it is $81,800. If you have more than one W-2, add the amounts together and put them on this line. For now, I am going to skip lines 1B through line 1I, as they're not going to apply to most of the viewers of this video, but I will circle back to these at the end and explain them. On line 1Z, put the totals of lines 1A through 1H. In our example, it is $81,800. On line 2A, put any tax-exempt interest that you have. On line 2B, any taxable interest. In our example, you received a Form 1099 INT from your bank with interest reported of $1,600. Put that on line 2B. When you have over $1,500 of taxable interest or ordinary dividends, you must file Schedule B. There's also some other situations where you would have to file, and I've listed them here. At the top of the form, put your names and the Social Security number of the taxpayer. In Part 1, Line 1, put the name of the bank and the amount of interest that you received. Carry that amount down to line 2 and line 4. In Part 3, since we did not have an interest in any foreign accounts, the answers will be no. On line 3A, put your qualified dividends. And on line 3B, your ordinary dividends. You would have received these amounts on a Form 1099. Report any IRA distributions or pensions and annuities on lines 4A and 5A. These would be reported to you on a Form 1099-R. Put the taxable amounts on lines 4B and 5B, respectively. On line 6A, put the Social Security benefits that were reported to you on Form SSA 1099 in Box 5. On line 6B, put the taxable portion. I have another video that walks you through how to calculate the taxable portion of your Social Security benefits, and I will put the link at the bottom of this video. But in short, if half of your Social Security benefits plus your other income is more than $25,000 for a single, or more than $32,000 for married filing jointly, some of your Social Security benefits will be taxable. The box on line 6C is for lump sum election. If any of your benefits are taxable for the 2022 year, and they include a lump sum benefit payment from an earlier year, by checking this box, you might be able to reduce the amount of the taxable portion. On line 7, put any capital gain or losses that you have. An example of this would be when you sell stock or a bond. Typically, you have to file Schedule D along with this and also Form 8949. There are some exceptions to this, and I will list them here. On line 8, report any income from Schedule 1. Though in our example, we don't have any, some of the more common ones that you might run into is alimony received. If you had a rental you would report the income on Schedule E and then carry it to line 5. If you had your own business that you're reporting as a sole proprietorship, you'd report that income on Schedule C and carry it to line 3. Or if you received unemployment compensation, you would report that on line 7 of Schedule 1. Note that line 1 is taxable refunds from state and local income taxes, and you may have received a Form 1099-G from your local or state government. You would only report the income if you itemized in the year that you actually paid the tax. So for example, if you itemized in 2021, you may have to report the refund here, but if you did not, you don't have to report it. In our example, you are a teacher of the 5th grade and you had educator expenses of $300, so those will be reported on line 11. You also have student loan interest of $200, which will be reported on line 21. Total the amounts down on line 26, which in our example would be $500. Carry that amount to line 10 and subtract it from line 9 to arrive at $82,900 for your adjusted gross income on line 11. On line 12, put the larger of your standard deduction or itemized deductions. In our example, it is assumed that the standard deduction is the larger of the two. You can find the amount in the box to the left. Since we are married filing jointly in this example, it is $25,900. I have attached a Schedule A so you can see the more common itemized deductions, which are medical and dental expenses, state and local income taxes, charitable contributions, and mortgage interest. On your Form 1040, carry the amount of $25,900 to line 14, as you do not have a business, so you will not have a qualified business income deduction on line 13. Subtract line 14 from line 11 to arrive at $57,000 on line 15 for taxable income. To calculate your tax, use the tax tables that begin on page 63 of the Form 1040 instructions. Since your taxable income is at least $57,000 but less than $57,050 and you are married filing jointly, your tax is $6,432. Carry the amount to line 16. Line 17 will be blank as we don't have an amount from Schedule 2, line 3. Schedule 2, line 3 includes both AMT, the alternate minimum tax, and the excess advance premium tax credit repayment. The alternate minimum tax arises when an individual has significant deductions against their regular tax that creates a situation where their economic income is greater than their taxable income. Since it's pretty rare, I'm not going to go through the calculation on Form 6251. The excess advance premium tax credit repayment is when an individual has assistance with insurance premiums paid throughout the year that results in a situation where repayment is necessary. On line 18 of Form 1040, add lines 16 and 17 together to arrive at $6,432. On line 19, we will put your child tax credit, which we will calculate on Schedule 8812. At the top of Schedule 8812, put your names and the taxpayer's Social Security number. On line 1, put the amount from line 11 of your Form 1040, which in our example is $82,900. Line 2 will be 0 as we don't have any amounts from the forms listed. On line 3, add line 1 and 2D together to arrive at $82,900. On line 4, put the number of qualified children under age 17, which in our example there is 1, times that by 2,000 for line 5. Since we don't have any other dependents, line 6 will be 0 as well as line 7. On line 8, add lines 5 and 7 together to arrive at 2,000. On line 9, enter $400,000 as you are married filing jointly. On line 10, subtract line 9 from line 3, which will be 0, thus line 11 will be 0 as well. Since line 8 is more than the amount on line 11, we will check the box yes and enter 2000 on line 12. On line 13, we will enter the amount from the credit limit worksheet A. You can find this worksheet on page 4 of the 8812 instructions. On line 1, enter the amount from line 18 of your Form 1040, which is $4,432 in our example. Line 2 will be 0 as we don't have any amounts from Schedule 3 or Form 5695. Subtract line 2 from line 1 on line 3 to arrive at $4,432. You will not complete worksheet B as you don't meet any of the requirements that are listed. So line 4 will be 0. On line 5, subtract line 4 from 3 to arrive at $4,432. Enter this on Schedule 8812, line 13. Line 14 on Schedule 8812 will be 2,000 as it is the smaller of line 12 or 13. Carry this amount to line 19 of your Form 1040. Line 20 will be left blank as we don't have any credits from Schedule 3, line 8. A couple of the common credits that you would report on Schedule 3 are the credit for child independent care expenses that you would fill out Form 2441 for, and also the education credits that you would fill out Form 8863. On line 21, add lines 19 and 20 together to arrive at $2,000. Subtract line 21 from line 18 to arrive at $4,432 on line 22. On line 23, report any other taxes from Schedule 2, line 21, the most common one being self-employment tax. On line 24, add up lines 22 and 23 to arrive at $4,432 for your total tax. On line 25A, report your federal income tax withholding from Form W-2 that you can find in Box 2. In our example, it is $4,500. On 25B, include any withholding from Form 1099, and on 25C from any other form that you had withholding on. Examples would be a Schedule K-1 or Form W-2G. On line 25D, add lines 25A through 25C to arrive at $4,500. On line 26, include any estimated tax payments that you made and any amount that you applied to your 2022 return from your 21 return. The situation for this would be if you had an overpayment on your 21 return and instead of receiving a refund, you applied that amount to your 22 return. If you qualified for the Earned Income Credit, you would enter that on line 27. The Earned Income Credit is a credit for individuals with low income. You can even get more in the credit than you actually paid in tax throughout the year. In our example, married filing jointly with one child, the maximum AGI that we could have is $49,622 to qualify for the credit. The bottom portion of the Form 1040 are refundable credits. So the additional child tax credit is a credit that you can get even though your tax is already reduced to 0. You would calculate if you qualified for this on Schedule 8812. You are taking the education credit, the American Opportunity Credit from Form 8863, enter the amount on line 29. On line 31, enter the amount from Schedule 3, line 15. Most common other payment from Schedule 3 would be if you paid in an amount when you request an extension of time to file. Line 32 in our example will be 0 as we do not have any other payments or refundable credits. Line 33 are your total payments. In our example, this is $4,500. As we have an overpayment, we will place it on line 34, which is $68 in our example. And since we would want it refunded, we would put it on line 35A. If you are in a situation where you're paying estimated taxes in, and you instead want your refund applied to your next year's return, put this amount on line 36 in lieu of line 35A. If you Want your refund directly deposited into your bank account, put the routing and account information on lines 35B and D, and put the type of account you have on line C. If you don't want it directly deposited into your bank account, cross off lines 35B and D, and the IRS will send you a check directly. Note that there's a box to the left of line 35A. You would only check this box if you want your refund deposited into more than one bank account, so usually this would be left blank. If you were to owe taxes, that would go on line 37, and if you had an estimated tax penalty, that would go on line 38. Remember to sign, date, and put your occupations at the bottom of the form. As I discussed at the beginning of the video, we're going to circle back now to lines 1B through line 1I. If you received household employee wages but did not receive a Form W-2 for them, you would report them on line 1B. If you did not make $2,400 from your employer, it is very likely that you did not receive a Form W-2 for these. On line 1C, put any tip income that was not reported on line 1A. This would include any tip income that you didn't report to your employer and any allocated tips shown in box 8 of your Form W-2. On line 1D, enter any taxable Medicaid waiver payments that were not reported to you on Form W-2. You would also enter here any non-taxable Medicaid waiver payments that you are choosing to include in income. The reason you would choose to report non-taxable Medicaid waiver payments would be for claiming a credit or getting a tax benefit from doing so. Dependent care benefits are reported to you in box 10 of your Form W-2. You need to complete Form 2441 to see how much of those benefits are taxable and then enter the amount on line 1E. Any employer-provided adoption benefits will be shown on your W-2 in box 12 with a code T. You need to complete Form 8839 to find out if you need to include any of these on line 1F. On line 1G, enter your wages from Form 8919. Wages from Form 8919 are wages that you did not receive on a Form W-2 from your employer because they were treating you as an independent contractor for tax purposes, but they should have been treating you as an employee. So the wages would go on line 1G. On line 1H, put any other earned income. One example of this would be strike or lockout benefits. If you are taking the earned income credit, you can elect to include your non-taxable combat pay in your earned income when calculating the credit. This might arrive at a higher credit for you. If you are doing this, you need to include the amount on line 1I. This wraps it up for all the lines on the Form 1040 for 2022. Thank you for watching. I am from How to Taxes. Subscribe for future tax videos.